going to go ahead and introduce our speaker, Regina Munch, who's going to talk to us about writing for Commonweal. So Regina, please take it away.
Hi everyone, and thank you again for having me. I'm excited to meet this group. I haven't been able to come to a Weal meeting yet, but I'm very glad to be here. So we're going to talk about writing for Commonweal, which we can talk about. I'll talk for probably about 15-20 minutes, and then we can discuss whatever's interesting for if you're thinking about writing for Commonweal or Catholic media in general. I'm excited to hear what you guys think about what you're looking for in Catholic media and what you want to hear more of or what you want to hear less of. So I'm excited to hear all your thoughts on that. But what I hope you'll get out of tonight is talking about maybe what makes a Commonweal article, and maybe give you some, I'll give you some examples in the chat. I'll link to some articles in the chat box that do some of the things that I think make Commonweal articles or make just a good article in general. And we can talk about kind of the Commonweal processes and policies around pitching and submitting and editing that I hope will also be helpful, even just writing for any general audience, not necessarily for Commonweal. So I hope that'll all be helpful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. We don't have to, it doesn't have to be a totally me talking. So let's think, what makes a Commonweal article? So Commonweal was founded in 1924 and kind of at a time when the founders were trying to stake a conviction that Catholicism has to engage with the culture in a particularly democratic way, rather than retreat from it or build up walls against it. And it wanted to be a space particularly for lay Catholics. So to kind of give us some room to ask questions that maybe others can't, or to explore in a way that's a little bit less directed. And I hope you see that in our articles. So our tag is religion, politics, culture. But I don't think there's very much that we wouldn't consider talking about, as long as it was clear that it's kind of important for an engaged group of people to think about, that interested Catholics should care. So we've covered obvious stuff that a Catholic might be interested in, like the Amazon Synod or sex abuse crisis. But also I'll send you some other links where we like to write about the ethics of safe injection sites, or what an economy based on worker-owned cooperatives could look like. So I kind of like that expansive way of thinking about things. Our writing can be pretty broad, I think, and I like that about Catholic media in general. I think that's not just a Commonweal thing. And it doesn't always have to have like a Catholic angle, that it doesn't have to be, here's like, did you know secretly that this person was Catholic? That's kind of not our vibe, I think. But I think what makes a Commonweal article is sort of tone rather than content necessarily. I like to think that it's generous and inquisitive and cares about the truth. That it sort of gives the benefit of the doubt to the people that you're talking about, weighing of thoughts and opinions, but doesn't shy away from a strong position if it's earned in your argument, and if it's warranted. And moreover, it knows the conversation. I kind of like that. I think Commonweal is good with engaging with, like setting up a conversation, knowing the conversation in academia, in the Catholic world, in, whatever circles, and being able to intervene intelligently in them. One good example, I'll share the, let me find my link. The safe injection site article I thought was very cool. Let me give you the link here. There's that. And you don't have to read through these now by any means, but if you're interested. what I like that it does is that so this article is by Bernard Prusak, and talking about what Catholic ethicists have said about safe injection sites, arguments for and against, and thinking through, can a Catholic support such a thing to fight the opioid epidemic? And it sort of weighs tradition and like just the wonderful weight of tradition that we have, and to be able to engage with that and to think about it and apply it to some really important questions that we're dealing with today. It doesn't demonize. That's one thing I love about it. It's it kind of takes the best arguments from someone that he disagrees with and tries to put them forward and talk to them charitably. And I think that's, when we're at our best, that's what we're doing. So I wrote down here, a Commonweal article is infused with interest, care, and Christian love, caring for the vulnerable, caring for truth, for justice, but being able to arrive confidently at a conclusion, and to be able to admit when you're not sure. That too. Devotional writing is wonderful, but I think that's not really what Commonweal does, which I know this group has talked about spiritual writing. I think they can be somewhat separate, certainly overlap, but maybe we can talk about the differences between devotional and spiritual writing. I'd love to think about that some more. But there seems to be a distinction to me, and Commonweal leans more spiritual than devotional, but we can talk about that. We also don't really do hot takes, I don't think. If that headline's going to appear the next day, we probably won't publish it. But another aspect is kind of chewing over an idea, letting it sit for a little while, not having to respond. Who's that author? Jenny Odell's How to, I forget what the title is now. She wrote a wonderful book. I'll send you send that to you, but it's about sort of the grace of being able to be silent on social media, where there's either kind of posting or nothing, and nothing looks like weakness. But how to do nothing. There we go. That's the name of the book. How to do nothing. I also think a Commonweal article shows erudition, shows an expertise in a topic without being flashy, without kind of waving it in your face, without being impenetrable for the sake of exclusion, but always at the service of helping others understand, with a certain level of humility. I think that's especially good advice for academics. I know some of us have come from a background of academia, and it's a transition to go from academic writing and that style of thinking and communicating to communicating for a general audience. And it's not a matter of dumbing down, but a matter of answering different questions, maybe is the right way to put it. Let me send you a link to this other article by Michael Peppard. And what I think this article does very well, this is about the role of women leaders in the early church, and he's kind of using like textual analysis and scripture, I think Romans in particular, to look at the role of women. And it's very it's quite learned, it's technical, but it's inviting. And that's, I think, some of the best sort of academic translation to general audience that I've seen in our pages. He's very nimble. That's the word I wrote down. He's nimble with his information. He doesn't let it bog him down, and he doesn't let it doesn't let him dictate what he's going to say. And he doesn't get carried away with his information, which I really like. And that's something that as a writer, I have to struggle with a lot. I'm learning how to do that myself. So I admire that a lot. I can tell you a little bit about how an article makes its way into Commonweal. So we have set writers. We have like many regular writers who contribute regularly to us. But a lot of our content does come through, oh, thanks, Milton. A lot of our content does come through unsolicited on our submittable platform, and I can send you the link to that. So that's how we discover new writers, especially younger writers. That's how we hear about a lot of people. And we look at both pitches and full text articles. So one thing I always want to say is don't be afraid of pitching, either to us or anywhere else, because it actually kind of saves everyone time in terms of if an editor likes something about what you're saying, you can have a back and forth before you write the article and really talk about what you want to say, and that you can kind of come up with a sort of mutually agreeable article in that way. We have a few different types of articles. Upfronts or short takes. We have, thank you. Those are about 1,500 to 2,500 words. They're kind of a newsy take on a headline or some kind of topic of the day and give a little commentary on it. I'll send you a good example of that. This article by Michael Dreesen about, here we go, an interfaith group led by the Saudi government, which is a little counterintuitive, but talking about this sort of almost a little bit obscure headline that needs to be explored. Like, he wanted to, what I think this type of article does is break open a headline for you using that person's expertise. I think this is particularly good. This is a good way for academics to start writing for us, because if there's something relevant going on in the world that you can lend your expertise to, it's just a good way to get used to the idea of writing for a general audience. I think that's one of my favorite ways to write. Feature essays are kind of the longest articles in a magazine. They're about 2,500 to 5,000-ish words. I believe our managing editor, Kate Lucky, spoke to you, and I'm going to send you one of her feature articles that was fantastic, where she sort of did a reported piece on the last two living Shakers. So she interviewed, she talked to them, and it's, what I like about feature pieces is that they can be so exploratory, and you as the author, I think, sort of disappear into the background as you give the floor to your subject. And it's a very like generous way to like explore someone else or something else. And that word count gives you a lot of space to do that. So features are hard to write, but very rewarding for the reader, I think. We accept interviews. If you, the author, have interviewed someone, we would consider an interview transcript as a submission. And last words are kind of the final, in an issue, they're the final piece at the end that is sort of meant to be a concluding, more reflective piece, sometimes based on a personal experience or a thought. One editor once said to me that they're kind of like a way to think an idea through, that it can kind of just be a snippet. You don't have to work out a whole argument, or you're not writing a thesis, but it's sort of an exploration of a thought, and a sort of getting to know someone and their thought. And I'm going to send you someone this group has talked to, Melody G. I think her language and conversion piece is a great introduction to an idea that she invites you, even just as the reader, to think through with her. And I think that's the idea of a last word. Let me see. I guess I'll say a few technical things about our policies. We don't really accept unsolicited reviews, but we would accept pitches. So again, that would be a good, sending us a pitch would be a good way for us to think about something you might want to review, whether that's a book, a movie, play, an art show, anything like that. Music, we really like music. And I think we'd like to have more music if anyone's interested in that. We accept poetry. we have a new feature called the closing shot, which is towards the back of the magazine, a photograph. So if you or anyone you know is a photographer and is looking to submit work, we're accepting that as well. We do pay, and that's important to know and important to ask anywhere that you would submit something. So there's the closing shot. Milton's holding it up. There you go. I like that one. Yeah. Ta-da. I'll give a little bit of, so I'm the person who is on the other end of that submittable platform reading through submissions. So I've, in my mind, kind of gathered together a list of things to do or not do as someone submitting. So I can share a few of those, and I hope they also apply elsewhere if you would are trying to write for other places as well. What I said, don't be afraid to pitch. I'm gonna give you my email right now. I'm typing it here. If you can email me pitches directly if you would like. Please feel free to do that. I think so. When I was in grad school, I realized I didn't want to be an academic and I wanted to write for a more general audience. And one of my professors told me the most exciting thing to learn is that if you have knowledge, someone will pay you to write about it. And that was crazy to me. I was just writing papers all the time and I could do this for money. You can. If you have the expertise and you can tell a story well, not even a story, but you can tell a narrative well. People want to hear that. So send it. 9 out of 10 times it'll be a no, but sometimes it'll be a yes, and that's cool. One thing that I did have to adjust to as a writer is the editing process. It can be very in-depth, and sometimes it can sound like a lot of criticism for little praise, but if you have a good editor, and I am blessed with very good editors at Commonweal, and I'm trying to be a good one myself, if you have a good editor, you should have a sort of trusting relationship with them, and that's important, to find someone that you trust to edit your work. Often when we reject a piece, I think it's often assumed that it's because of the topic or the argument or the content. It's usually not. It's usually the opposite. I love most of the ideas in the articles that we get, but usually it's an execution thing, that it just, the narrative wasn't well told, or the implications weren't drawn out, or that kind of stuff. So I think that's sometimes the feedback I get after I send a rejection. Don't you care about blank? I do, but yeah. And sometimes people will want to go back and forth with you about an idea, and that's great, and see what an editor has to say when you get that kind of feedback. And I guess the last thing I'll say before I step back is get creative. I think Commonweal, but also just anyone, is looking for a new point of view on a well-worn topic. You're not going to solve the, abortion debate. But you can offer maybe a new way of thinking about it. You can gesture to future ways of thinking about it, or what your way of thinking about it might mean. You can think about the things that you have learned and that the Catholic tradition has offered you, and apply them. I think the Safe Injection Sites article is a great example of that. But kind of this meeting of tradition and current events, or questions that you're thinking about, if you can get those things to sit together and talk to each other with humility, with your own humility, and you let those things talk with each other, like great things can come of that. And I think that that's something that a lot of people are looking to read. I hope. So I will stop there. And I would love to hear what people are looking for in Catholic media right now.